I still remember the silence of that house after the laughter was gone. Once, it had been filled with voices, the scrape of bowls at supper, the warm laughter of my husband Mahlon, the steady tone of his brother, the deep voice of Elimelech blessing the bread. The smell of roasted grain used to hang in the air, mixing with the faint sweetness of figs. But death came like a storm that would not end. One by one, the voices stopped. First Elimelech, then Kilian, then Mahlon, my Mahlon. The rooms felt colder. Even the clay walls seemed to press in on me, suffocating me with silence. Grief made the air heavy. My hands shook as I swept the floor, though there was little left to sweep. Bread was scarce. My heart was emptier still. Naomi's eyes, once so alive with kindness, had grown dim, like lamps flickering with the last drops of oil. Then she told us she was leaving Moab, going back to Bethlehem. Her voice was cracked and dry, like an old wineskin. "Go, my daughters," she pleaded with me and Orpah. "Return to your mothers. You are still young, you can marry again. My life is over." Orpah's tears fell as she kissed Naomi's cheek. I could still smell the salt of her grief in the air when she turned back toward Moab. My heart clenched, but my feet would not move. I clung to Naomi's arm, trembling. My voice broke out of me, unstoppable. "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God." The words burned in my chest, fierce and alive. They were not a choice anymore, they were my very breath. Naomi wept, her shoulders shaking. And I knew, I had chosen a road with no return. The journey to Bethlehem was long and punishing. Dry wind lashed against our faces. Dust clung to my skirts until they turned the color of the earth. My sandals wore thin on the rocky paths, and sharp stones cut into the skin of my feet. Naomi walked ahead of me, her frame bent like a tree battered by storms. Each night we rested on hard ground, the smell of earth and dry grass filling our nostrils. The only sound was the crack of crickets and Naomi's quiet sobs as she tried to sleep. And in every village we passed through, I felt eyes following me. "She is a Moabite," they whispered. "Foreigner. Outsider." Their voices stung worse than the stones under my feet. Fear pressed heavily in my chest. What if Naomi regretted bringing me? What if I was nothing but a burden in her sorrow? But when I looked at her hollow cheeks and weary eyes, something fierce rose in me. I would not leave her, not for the whispers of strangers, not for fear, not even for hunger. When we finally reached Bethlehem, the streets were alive with noise. Goats bleating, merchants calling, children laughing. But when they saw Naomi, the crowd hushed. Women stared, men frowned. I heard the whispers ripple. "Is this Naomi?" Naomi's voice broke like a branch in winter. "Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has made my life bitter." The words pierced me like a blade. She carried her grief openly, while mine was hidden, pressed deep into my chest. I wanted to comfort her, to remind her of hope, but the silence between us was heavy as stone. That night, in her dark little house, I lay on a mat so thin I could feel the rough floor beneath. The air smelled of dust and smoke from the cooking fires outside. My body ached from the road, my stomach hollow with hunger. But as the moonlight traced pale lines across the cracked walls, I whispered into the stillness. "If I must gather scraps to keep us alive, then so be it. Tomorrow, I will go to the fields. And there, perhaps, my fate will begin." The morning after we arrived in Bethlehem, hunger gnawed at me like a restless wolf. My stomach ached, my body still weak from the long journey. Naomi sat quietly in the shadows, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes staring at nothing. I knew then, I could not wait. I had to act. So I rose, wrapped my worn shawl tighter around me, and stepped outside. The air was cool and sharp, carrying the earthy scent of tilled soil. I asked the first kind-looking woman I saw in the street, "Where do the poor go to gather grain?" They pointed beyond the hills. And so I went. The field stretched before me like a sea of gold and green. Barley stalks rustled in the breeze, their tips brushing against one another like whispers. The reapers moved in rhythm, their sickles flashing in the sunlight. The scrape of metal, the swish of falling stalks, it was like a song of labor. I walked with my head low, heart thudding in my chest. Would they cast me out? Would they scorn me for being Moabite? But I bent down and gathered the scraps the reapers left behind. My fingers burned from pulling the stalks, my back ached from bending, yet I worked silently, determined. Each handful of barley was life for Naomi and me. Then I felt it, eyes upon me. I lifted my gaze, and there he was. A man, tall and steady, walking toward the workers. His voice carried across the field, warm, strong, and commanding. The workers paused, greeting him with respect. "Who is that?" I whispered to a servant girl. She looked at me with wide eyes. "That is Boaz, the master of the field." My breath caught. I quickly lowered my eyes, afraid he would see me, just another foreigner scraping for leftovers. But then I heard his voice, closer now. Not stern, not harsh, gentle. Curious. "Whose young woman is this?" he asked. My cheeks burned hot. The overseer answered for me, explaining who I was, how I had left my homeland, how I cared for Naomi. Then, to my shock, Boaz came to me. His shadow fell across the barley stalks as he stood near. I dared to glance up. His eyes were kind, like cool water on a weary soul. "Listen, my daughter," he said softly. "Do not go to another field. Stay here, close to my servant girls. I have ordered the men not to touch you. And when you are thirsty, drink from the jars they have filled." My knees trembled. I fell to the ground, face to the dust. "Why have I found such favor in your eyes?" I whispered. "I am a foreigner." But Boaz only smiled. "I have been told," he said, "of all that you have done for Naomi, how you left your father and mother and your homeland to live among people you did not know. May the Lord reward you for it. May you be richly repaid by the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Those words sank deep into me. Wings of refuge. I had felt so exposed, so unwanted, so small in this strange land. But his kindness wrapped around me like a cloak. When mealtime came, Boaz himself offered me bread. The smell of roasted grain and sour wine filled the air. My hands shook as I dipped my piece into the vinegar, tasting food more satisfying than any I had eaten since Mahlon died. My hunger quieted. That night, when I returned home with arms heavy with barley, Naomi's eyes lit up with a spark I had not seen in so long. "Where did you glean today? Blessed be the man who noticed you." "His name," I said softly, still tasting the sweetness of that moment, "is Boaz." Naomi froze, her breath catching. Then she smiled, a smile that carried both hope and wonder. "Boaz," she whispered. "The Lord has not abandoned his kindness to the living or the dead. That man, he is our kinsman redeemer." In that small house, with the smell of barley filling the air and Naomi's eyes shining again, I felt it, like the first rays of dawn after a long, dark night. Something was beginning. Something far greater than I could yet see. The harvest season came to an end, and with it the sound of sickles slicing grain, the laughter of workers, the clatter of baskets. Bethlehem's fields grew quieter, but inside my heart, restlessness stirred. Naomi, her eyes sharper now, her voice steady with purpose, took my hands one evening as we sat in the dim glow of a single oil lamp. The smell of roasted barley lingered in the air. "My daughter," she said, "I must find a home for you, where you will be provided for. Boaz, he is our relative. Tonight, he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Anoint yourself. Put on your best clothes. Go there. But do not let him see you until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he lies. Then go, uncover his feet, and lie down. He will tell you what to do." Her words throbbed in my ears. My breath came shallow. What if I made a mistake? What if he shamed me? Yet Naomi's gaze was unwavering, filled with faith. "Okay, I will do whatever you say," I whispered, though my heart trembled. That night, after bathing and smoothing my hair, I wrapped myself in my cloak. The scent of olive oil clung to me. My palms were slick with sweat as I crept through the silent streets. The moon hung high, spilling silver light across the fields. Each step seemed louder than thunder to me. At the threshing floor, I saw him. Boaz, sitting among his workers, eating bread, drinking wine. Their laughter drifted like warm smoke into the night. The smell of roasted grain filled the air, mingling with the crisp scent of the wind. When at last he lay down near the pile of barley, I waited, hidden in the shadows. My heart pounded so loudly I feared it would give me away. Finally, when the hush of sleep settled over the place, I moved. Slowly, quietly, each step on the packed earth was like walking on glass. I found him. His breathing was deep, steady. I knelt. My fingers shook as I lifted the edge of his cloak, uncovering his feet. The cool night air brushed against my face as I lay down there, pressing my cheek to the ground, my whole body taut with fear and hope. Suddenly, he stirred. A jolt ran through me. His body shifted, his voice startled. "Who are you?" My mouth went dry, but I forced the words out, barely above a whisper. "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer." The silence stretched like a knife. Would he rebuke me? Call me foolish? Then his voice softened, warm, trembling with surprise and something more. "The Lord bless you, my daughter. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, do not be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. Everyone knows you are a woman of noble character." Tears burned my eyes. Relief flooded me, stronger than wine, sweeter than honey. Still, he paused. His tone grew grave. "Though it is true I am a guardian redeemer, there is another closer than I. Stay here for the night. If he will redeem you, good. If not, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it." He pulled his cloak gently over me, shielding me from the cold. My body relaxed at last, the smell of barley and earth surrounding us. For the first time in many nights, I felt safe. Before dawn, he stirred again, careful not to rouse the camp. His hands pressed heavy grain into my cloak, more than I could carry. "This," he said softly, "is so Naomi will not be empty-handed." I bowed low, my heart a storm of fear and hope, joy and uncertainty. When I returned to Naomi, the bundle of grain spilling from my arms, she read my face before I spoke a word. The lines of her mouth curved in a knowing smile. "Wait, my daughter," she said, her voice calm, certain. "The man will not rest until the matter is settled today." And so I waited. My heart is heavy, yet burning with a strange, unshakable hope. The sun rose slowly that morning, washing Bethlehem in golden light. The streets buzzed with the sounds of vendors setting out bread, children chasing one another, women drawing water. But for me, the world felt suspended, every sound muffled beneath the pounding of my heart. Boaz had spoken with such certainty, "I will not rest until this matter is settled today." Still, a shadow of doubt clung to me. Would the nearer kinsman claim the right? Would my life change yet again, beyond my choosing? I pressed my hands against the smooth fabric of my cloak, inhaling deeply. The grain Boaz had given me lay stored inside the cave, a weighty reminder of his promise. Naomi's eyes had glimmered with quiet faith. "Wait, my daughter," she told me. And so, I waited. Boaz, I later learned, had gone to the town gate, the place where men gathered, where justice was declared, where lives turned with the words of elders. I can picture it still. The gate, tall and weathered, its stones warm under the morning sun. The smell of dust and livestock filling the air. Men gathered in cloaks, leaning on staffs, voices low and serious. There he sat today. Strong, steady, his eyes unwavering as he called the nearer kinsman. "Come, sit here, friend." The man came, and Boaz summoned 10 elders of the city to witness. My breath must have caught 1,000 times as Naomi told me what unfolded. Boaz's voice was clear, ringing like a bell. "Naomi, who has returned from Moab, is selling the land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. If you will redeem it, do so. But if not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has the right except you, and I am next in line." The man nodded at first. "I will redeem it," he said. My heart, hearing those words, seemed to crack. Would my hope end here? But Boaz, wise and steady, added, "On the day you buy the land, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property." At this, the man's face must have fallen. He shook his head. Then I cannot redeem it. It might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself." He removed his sandal, a sign of agreement, of sealing the matter. The elders watched. The crowd murmured. And Boaz declared, his voice like thunder across the gate, "You are witnesses today that I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Mahlon, and Chilion. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite as my wife, to maintain the name of the dead with his property, so his name will not disappear among his family or from his hometown." The elders lifted their voices. "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the house of Israel. May your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah." When Naomi brought me the news, tears blurred my vision. Relief surged through me, so strong it made my knees weak. Joy, too deep for words, spilled over in sobs and laughter. I thought of the road I had walked, the barren fields of Moab, the ache of loss, the back-breaking work of gleaning, the night on the threshing floor. All of it, each step, had led here. Boaz had not only redeemed me, he had given me a future. The wedding was simple, yet holy. The fragrance of fresh bread filled the air, mingling with wildflowers laid by village women. My hands trembled in Boaz's as we stood together, a Moabite woman and a man of Bethlehem, joined by the hand of God. When I bore our son, Obed, Naomi took him into her arms. Her face glowed with a joy I had never seen before, the lines of grief softened by laughter. "Blessed be the Lord," the women said, "who has not left you this day without a redeemer." Obed would become the father of Jesse, the grandfather of David. From our line, kings would rise. And generations later, the Messiah himself would be born. As I look back, I see it now. I was once a stranger, a foreigner, a widow, an immigrant without hope. Yet God wrote my story into his great plan of redemption. Perhaps, dear friend listening to my voice, you too feel like an outsider. Perhaps your road has been heavy with loss, uncertainty, or fear. Take courage. The same God who wove my brokenness into blessing is still at work, writing your story. My story is not about a fairy tale rescue from hardship. It is about choosing faithfulness when everything seems lost. It is about daring to believe, faithfulness, and that even small acts of love can open a door to a future far greater than your past. I did not know then that from my womb would come kings, and from my story, a redeemer for all the world. Sometimes the hero's journey begins not with strength, but with a whispered choice: I will not give up.